Guys, new filming setup unlocked, I think. Do we like this? I think we like this. Hi, welcome to my August and September reading wrap up. Why have you combined them both, Victoria? Because I read fuck all in September, guys. I fell off my reading hype. I won't lie. September is actually my birth month. So 30 days of celebrating doesn't leave much time for books to be read, if I'm being completely honest. I've also just been making time for a few more hobbies I have in my life. I've been crocheting again, I've been knitting again. It's been living life, not picking up very many books, but I'm here to talk about the ones that I haven't already talked about, because in August I was reading like it was my job, and I have documented a few, so you're not going to get me talking about The Jassad Crown because I have a reading vlog dedicated to it, but it was obviously a book read in August, and The Memory Police, Diary of a Void, and that third one, I Have Never Known Men. I obviously just uploaded my review of sorts of them on my channel as well. So those are 4 books that I read in August that I've already discussed, aren't going to be mentioned in this video. But obviously, I'll just give you my ratings. The Jassad Crown was obviously 6 stars. I'm not entering any discourse criticising it. Thank you. And then The Memory Police, I maybe gave 3.8/4. I Have Never Known Men, I give 3.5. And Diary of a Void, I give 4. I enjoyed that one. That one was good. And taking those out of the equation, the first book I read in August, the first book I finished in August, was our book club pick for August, which was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That was me turning to pick it up, but it's in my car, I'm pretty sure, because I took it to book club and I haven't cleaned my car since that meeting. So it's there. I think I rated 3.75, maybe 3.5. I did enjoy this book. The book is set in the 80s. We follow Joan, who is a scientist, very smart lady, but in the 80s obviously there was no such thing as a smart lady. Coley! Do you remember my password is?
No.
Yeah. What do we think it could be?
Maybe they ran to.
Maybe.
Something.
Is it?
I think.
Nice.
Was it?
She has been undervaluing herself effectively her whole life. She has a younger sister who got pregnant when she was in university, and Joan has effectively put her life on hold to help her little sister raise this baby that she loves, that obviously she loves as well as her niece. She doesn't feel any resentment about this decision. She's really stopped herself progressing in her own life because she's very much helping her sister with her life, until an opportunity comes that she really can't refuse, and it's that NASA are recruiting scientists, female scientists, to be part of the space mission. And Joan's sister actually brings it up to her and says, you should probably do this, but so flippantly that she probably doesn't even really mean it whenever she says it, but Joan latches onto this idea and applies to be part of the space program, and is unsuccessful but then successful, and is taken in the second cohort of scientists that are chosen to be part of it. And the story just really follows her journey navigating her family life and making friends in this new space program, as well as training to one day become an astronaut. The book itself is split in 2 timelines. So you have the space mission that her and her group of friends find themselves on, and this is what starts the book and really sets off the tone for the rest of the story, because immediately from chapter 1 they're on the space mission and things start going badly wrong, very badly wrong. Crew members are dying. There's a collision that happens that basically no one down on Earth is able to help them with, and it really falls to the engineers on board to kind of fix it, but a lot of them are not doing very well. And Joan is actually in charge of mission control for this mission, so she's watching it all happen from afar, and then the timeline skips back to the start before she even knows any of these people involved on the mission. As the story develops and progresses, we begin to meet all these people alongside Joan. I didn't love that as an approach for the storytelling for me personally, because I immediately lost interest in anyone I knew we were going to lose. Like, my defense mechanisms, they turned up and they went into full whack 100%. Oh, this person's going to die? I'm not going to enjoy their presence in the book. But it's so unfortunate because some of the people are so charming and they win you around anyway, and you know what their fate is. It's a very... If you were to let yourself get attached to a fictional character knowing they were going to die, it would be a struggle. And because it was one of our book club picks, it was a really good one to dissect in that regard, because everyone had different viewpoints on whether they liked that approach, finding out who was going to die or be injured first, and kind of just seeing how the story ended before we found out how the story actually began. I just think it was very classic Taylor Jenkins Reid. She loves that setup for her novels. Evelyn Hugo, I was about to say Evelyn Hughes. Evelyn Hugo obviously starts with Evelyn Hugo reminiscing on her life. Daisy Jones and the Six starts with the band reminiscing on their life, and it's told through a series of interviews. This was kind of told through a series of newsletter articles, broadcasts that are mentioned. There's obviously somewhat of a tragic love story because we are in the 1980s, and as this book continues, we realise alongside Joan, although I think we maybe come to the conclusion a bit sooner, that Joan is gay. And she all of a sudden realises she's just in love with another one of the women on the space mission. So the stakes are pretty high. Obviously this is set in a time when being gay, not just frowned upon, illegal, I'm pretty sure, and they have to navigate hiding this attraction to one another as well as their training. Some things happen with Joan's sister and therefore her niece, and she has to provide more and then sometimes less and then sometimes more caregiving responsibilities. All this while she's trying to train herself to go to space. A lot of stakes, very high. And then we know from the space mission that happens at the start of the book that Vanessa, Joan's love interest, is one of the few people on the spacecraft. So we see their relationship start to develop. At the same time, we know Vanessa's fate is not looking very good. It all comes to a very emotional head towards the end of the book, and it has a lot of familial themes, found family and biological family, a real sense of duty and what that can mean in terms of your career and also your life's passion, and also just the duty you have to the people around you. It's definitely an emotional read. I struggled personally with knowing that so much of the cast, so to speak, were going to die, that I did not have that same attachment I probably would have if I'd gone into the story blind. And at the same time, a lot of the attitudes towards gay relationships at that time in America were more alluded to than they were actually shown. And I think that's another thing Taylor Jenkins Reid carries on in a lot of her books. It's kind of just implied of, obviously this was really bad at that time, but we don't see any really negative interactions between Joan, Vanessa and anyone that would oppose it. In fact, anyone we come to face with is very supportive of them and is sympathetic to their situation, but it just seems to be implied that it's a lot harder than it is, and I just don't really like whenever books tell you about something instead of showing you. So I think that would have made me enjoy the book a bit more, but it got a few 5 stars at book club, it got a few 2 stars at book club. It was a real nice bag, so it was a good one to discuss. Those are my favourite ones to discuss. I'm not even sure how I feel about the ending, you know, because it all does come to a head. I think but it was very emotional. Yeah, no, I think 3.5 stars is a good rating for me on that one. And then I read Not in Love by Ellie Hazelwood. And I read Not in Love because I wanted to read problematic summer romance. I wanted to get up to date in my Ellie Hazelwood verse, particularly before Mate came out. So that's what I was doing. That's what I did because I was a success. I'm all caught up. I've read Ellie Hazelwood's backlog. I haven't read her novellas. I maybe should. They'd be good for the Goodreads school. Anyway. Not in Love follows Rue and Eli. Rue is a scientist working in nutrition, and her company effectively gets bought over by Eli's company. Eli's company are looked as the big bad that come in and just ruin independent science projects. They're a big conglomerate. They're the bad guys. So Rue, it's kind of a enemies to lovers type situation. But Rue, I did actually really like Rue's character because I feel like she didn't get sucked into the politics of the situations too much, and she was very much there for her work. She made it very clear she was there for her work with Eli. Like she was a woman, she had good boundaries. I liked their relationship. I will say the story kind of takes a scientific espionage turn as far as the business side of things go, and obviously it's an Ellie Hazelwood, so there's also loads and loads of spice, and I was getting so sucked into the actual scientific business betrayal side of things that anytime they would then go and have sex I was like, guys, not the time, we have bigger fish to fry, which is good because I was invested in the story, but I was being a stick in the mud. I rated that book 4 stars. I did enjoy it. I really liked the friendship dynamics between Rue and her friends, and then Eli and his friends. I really enjoyed then that we knew them going into problematic summer romance, but the problematic summer romance was boring in comparison. And slight spoiler for Not in Love, because the second book set in that same verse is everyone attending Rue and Eli's wedding, which is so fun. Glad they're getting married, glad it's working out for these crazy kids. And so you get to see how they are still interacting with each other, which is really nice. But problematic summer romance follows Eli's younger sister Maya and his best friend Harkness. What's his first name? Robert? Connor. So their major issue is that there's an age gap element to it. So Maya is 23, Connor is 38. So there is an age gap, certainly. I just didn't believe that it was actually the biggest factor in stopping these two from being together. Maya and Eli both had a complicated relationship growing up, and just a complicated upbringing in general because they were orphaned, and obviously Maya matured probably more quickly than you would expect. She's also a very clever person. This book series, if you can call it a series, is for the smarty pants. It's for the STEM-minded, much like all Ali Hazelwood books. But they were very much consenting adults, and I just think they were on the same wavelength, maturity-wise. I am aware that your run-of-the-mill, that type of age gap is problematic, but then the more you got to know these characters, it was just frustrating because it didn't really seem like their biggest issue. The biggest issue actually seemed to be that Connor was Eli's best friend. I think it should have lent into the brother's best friend more than it did the age gap, because after a while I was just like, who cares? You guys, this is boring, who cares? Especially because there's just a bit of game playing or assumptions being made, miscommunications to a degree. It wasn't keeping me hooked as much as Not in Love did. So I gave it 2.5 stars, and it would maybe be a fun summer read, but it wouldn't be the first one I recommend. If I was recommending a summer Ali Hazelwood, I'd probably recommend Deep End if I was trying to give someone a summer Ali Hazelwood read. Or Love Theoretically, I also love that one. Or my favourite, Checkmate. Those would be my order of recommendation, not problematic summer romance. Guys, and then I went back to my roots. I picked up Cassandra Clare's adult series, Chronicles of Castellane, the Swordcatcher it is. I'm actually going to have to reorganise the books behind me because I don't know where anything is. I would love to be holding it to show you it right now. All of these books so far, I think I read physical copies. Where are they all? I read Swordcatcher, Chronicles of Castellane. It is her first adult series, and when I was reading this was also when I was on my steroids, so specific details of the plot escaping me. But I do know I had a good time. My review on Goodreads is, couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in this book, but the vibes, they were there. And that is a bit of an exaggeration. I do remember the story. The story follows Kai. Is his name Kai? Kale. Like, basically Kai. The story follows Kel, who, as the book starts, he is taken from an orphanage off on the city limits and is brought to the palace to see the king and queen. They are in need of a sword catcher for their son. What is a sword catcher, you ask? I'll tell you now. It is someone that is basically intended to stand in the place of the prince if there are any dangerous situations, to catch the sword that is meant to maim the prince, so to speak. So he is put under trial. He is sent into one of these big fancy dinner banquets at a very young age, and is just sent in to mingle with royalty. And they say to him, you either do badly and we send you back to the orphanage, but you'll have had hot dinner for the night, or you do well and you can come to live in the palace. So he does well. He wants to live in the palace, and Connor watches him, stand in for him at the dinner. They're able to enchant his looks so that no one that doesn't know he's not the prince won't know he's not the prince, if that makes sense. Everyone believes he's Connor. He fits in well. He picks up on the airs and graces very quickly. Connor says to him, do you want to be my sword catcher? Because he, even as a young child, says, you have a choice in this. You can say no. But Kel is like, no, I want to do it. So he does. And then we have a time jump to whenever they're young men, and they've basically grown up together in this palace, a very much prince and pauper situation, except for they're interchangeable at various events, and we see them do these changes, we see them navigate the village itself, and then we also see from the perspective of our third character called Lynn Castor. She is an Ashkar, so she is able to practice forms of magic. She's very much from what would be considered the slums of Casterlane. She is riff-raff, street rat, that type of vibe, and is very much far removed from the palace. Her uncle actually works for the palace and the royal family, and even they just do not speak to each other. It's completely different circles that they run in. But she's a medic, a healer, and she's sent by the palace for a few times to mend the prince's wounds. She gets involved in the boys. We start getting 3 perspectives. Very enjoyable situation. It also follows a lot of the kind of street mafia, street group that are actually running Castle Lane whenever the palace thinks they're running Castle Lane. There's a lot of palace politics. There's a lot of streetwise politics. It's just very enjoyable, and especially seeing how all the storylines start to converge and diverge. I feel like it's very classic Cassandra Clare, but not classic Cassandra Clare writing style. Like, if I didn't know this was Cassandra Clare, I wouldn't have thought it was, bar some of the plot devices in that subtle references to each of the main characters before we actually meet the main characters, or before we know it's the main characters we're talking about. I really enjoyed that. It was very much giving Shadowhunter Easter eggs. And essentially assassination attempt happens, and that forces Lynn and Kel into each other's paths as they are recruited for a man known as the Rag Picker King, who is the criminal ruler of Castle Lane's underground, so to speak. Through this, they start to discover conspiracy theories, and it all again comes to a head at the end of the book. There's a book 2. I think it's going to be a trilogy, but book 2 was only released this year, so I've delayed reading it, but I think I am going to have to read it soon before my prior knowledge of the whole series disappears. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a good fantasy read, and it put me in good stead to pick up my next fantasy read of August, which was, I can pick this one up, Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil. I loved this book, and I didn't even know I loved this book until we were in the final part. I would say the final, from this point onwards, I was in it. I was in it. I was part of the book. I was part of the narrative. I was part of the universe. I was in the room where it happened. I just loved it so much. This is a sapphic vampire book that focuses on 3 main characters. So you have Maria, who is from the 1500s. We have Maria from the 1500s. Alice from 2019. And we have Lottie as well. We also have Sabine. And it follows the story timelines of these 3 women, one of which, maybe all of which, are vampires, who knows, but it follows them throughout history, and it follows their relationships, them navigating the patriarchy throughout history, and also how they manage to manipulate situations. It sees our original vampire falling into cahoots, an alliance of sorts with others that she meets along the way. It's giving the Cullens meeting Victoria Laurent and... Hey Siri, who are the 3 evil vampires in Twilight? Search the web. It's giving me the Volturi. I don't mean the Volturi. You know the other one. James. Victoria Laurent and James. It was just a really good read. I was interested throughout. I wanted to see how everyone's stories were ending up. I wanted to see how everyone's stories were interlinked. Really good premises of manipulation, intrigue, mystery, little bit of gore as well, and morality. You start to really root for a character, and then you hear the horrible things they're doing to stay alive. They're also being manipulated by their own allies. It was a very interesting read, and I really enjoyed it. I've read Did V.E. Schwab write A Darker Shade of Magic? I've read that, but I haven't finished the series. That's the only other V.E. Schwab book I've read. I know The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is another noteworthy one. I don't know what it is about that book. I just cannot bring myself to pick it up, so I haven't. But this might have swayed me too, because I really enjoyed it. Gave it 5 stars. We'll probably read it again at some point as well. We'll definitely be recommending it to Chris because I think he'll enjoy it. And if you're looking for a spooky read this October, I think this one is perfect. So you should pick it up and love it. I don't want to talk too much about Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil because I do think the more I try to discuss these books, I just end up giving you guys synopsis to the plot, and I don't want to do that. But it is a really good one. And Sapphic Vampires is really all you need to know going into it. I think that was maybe our final book for August. Yeah, it was. Then September has consisted of 2 rereads. One I'm still in the middle of, and I will finish soon. Probably whenever I get this video edited, I will finish that book so I can move on to some new books in October. But I reread Thursday Murder Club for our September book club. And I feel like everyone just knows about that book. Elderly pensioners find a Thursday Murder Club, try to solve a mystery. The first book is definitely the weakest in the whole series, but I do I do love the series and I do love those pensioners. I did not love the movie and the changes they made in the movie, but I love the books. I like book 2 maybe the most, or maybe 3. Maybe 3 actually. But I am going to be reading The Impossible Fortune. I think book 4 maybe lost me a little bit. It's just they're so sad and they're so relatable and they're so funny. They're just great slice of life books with obviously this big murder mystery happening at the centre of it that's just so ridiculous that it just keeps you reading. So I read Thursday Murder Club, and if you were going to read it and you didn't enjoy it, I actually would recommend you stick with it because the latter books in the series are much better. Richard Osman becomes a much better writer as the series goes on. And then I'm currently in the middle of The Wicked King because I'm rereading that book as part of a video that's also being filmed in the background, so you'll see my thoughts on that in that. And then the only new book I read in September was Catabasis, whatever you want to call it. I read it. I loved it. I thought it was so good. I think everyone that's critiquing it and saying it's bad are dumb, actually. It was a very good book. It is not written like a textbook. It is written with academic references in it. So I'm sorry if you don't like that, but you probably won't like R.F. Kuang in general because her books are littered with knowledge and references that she takes from real life. I think it's incredible that she's able to do that and shows what an in-depth author she is and how seriously she takes the book she writes. And this one was so good. Alice, Law, Peter, Murdoch. There's a special place for them in hell. And it's together, actually. I love them so much. The book itself follows Alice and Peter, who are students at, are we in Oxford or Cambridge at this one? Cambridge, I think? Cambridge. They are studying the occult. They're studying the supernatural. They're studying hell itself and demons and how to get there, how to get back. And in doing so, Alice, we find out, accidentally sends her professor there. Just a run-of-the-mill accident, you know, when you're at uni and you accidentally send your professor to hell. Haha. She then spends the next few months researching how to get to hell herself so she can bring him back. And as she's researching this, Peter is researching it because he can't let Alice go to hell alone. Why would he? They're boyfriend and girlfriend, basically, in my brain anyway. And so he goes with her. He forces the issue to go with her, and Alice is very much this whole time being like, can I even trust Peter? I was sitting there being like, yes, we can. We love Peter. Peter is just trying to help, and we just follow their venturing through hell, through the many circles of hell. Many allusions to Dante's Inferno. So I'm so annoyed that people are saying that it reads like, it doesn't. Have you read a textbook? As someone still very much reading textbooks, this did not read like a textbook. It read like two people don't know they're in love with each other, go to hell to save their professor, and hopefully realise they're in love with each other on the journey. Who knows if they do or not? You'll have to read the book to find out. It was so good. It was stressful. Chris and I buddy read this. I say in quotes because he works shifts, so is able to get more read in bigger chunks than I am, and this book release date fell on a week whenever he was able to read it a lot faster than I was. So he finished it before I did, and I did not enjoy that because I just felt like I was being hoodwinked every time a plot twist or something stressful in the plot happened. I was just sitting there being like, I bet that's not real. And so I wasn't actually letting anything really sink in. So I recommend not doing that if you're competitive or just like to know things, nosy in any type of way. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed the characters we got to meet along the way. The big bad of the story I didn't see coming, but I also thought that was just expertly done. Trying to talk about the book without giving too much away, but I really would recommend, if you like fantasy, pick it up. And if you like a hero's descent into hell story, it's the perfect book. We have 2 to follow. 3 if you count the professor, 4 if you count literally everyone else that's ever gone to hell, because they're mentioned, low-key, in a way. And even just the different subsections, the different circles, the way they were laid out and the way they were described, it was just, I could see it as if it was right in front of me. I think R.F. Kuang did an expert job with that book. I enjoyed the overarching narrative and the development we got from the book. It's just really good. 5 stars, 6 stars, 6 stars. Give her 6 stars. And don't believe anyone that tries to tell you any different. I tried to speedrun these because I hate combining months, but because September was such a flop, I just thought it was easier to do it this way. So thank you for your patience with hearing my August reads. And if you like the sound of any of them, read them and we can discuss them. But those are all my books for September and August, so we're all up to date. Some of the girls from book club and I are also going to discuss Bare Our Bones, which will be really fun. The October book club pick is Rewitched, which I'm excited to read as well. I feel like it's very of the time, in the spirit of spooky season. Really excited to talk about those. In the meantime, like I have alluded to, I've been doing some other hobbies that don't include picking up books. So you are probably going to see some of that as well over the coming weeks. I know the channel's called Rhea Reads, but Rhea does so much more than reads. Rhea is such a multifaceted person, so we're going to see a few more things. It really should just be how Rhea passes the time, because anytime I've got spare time, anytime I'm not at work, I'm talking into this camera or I'm picking up this camera to show you guys what I'm doing. So Rhea Reads and does other things was just a bit too long. Now I'm going to end the video because I have to edit it, because it's Monday and this needs to be up for Wednesday. The life of a YouTube showgirl, guys, I swear. Taylor could never. Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you soon. Wednesday, probably. Bye.